Hello and welcome to the Do More Better podcast. From the shift leader at Wendys to junior software engineer, our goal is to provide context and a point of reference for those looking to make meaningful change in their career. The following is not a self-help guide or a step-by-step instruction manual. It is a thought catalog, a social API from a combined 30 years of experience at multiple levels of business and industry that have been distilled down to a collection of stories and dialogues to share with you, the listener, to analyze and integrate into your own professional career development journey, and also to have a little fun ripping on the social oddities of corporate culture. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. So starting off, Bud, I want to talk to you about advertising and the advertising that's been directed at me by YouTube, and just some general feedback I have to this one particular advertiser that I'm not going to name that has been coming up a lot on my feed lately. And I still don't know what they sell. Let me set the mood for you here and see if you can guess what this particular company sells. Again, I still don't know. I can't be asked to actually look things up. So there's a quick kind of electronic like action reel, and then it's like GoPro style, not GoPro, it's like 4K, so, but like red footage shot in the style of GoPro. You're skiing down a mountain, you're jumping out of a plane, you're running, but you have no legs. And then you're crashing into the pit at a 100-meter sprint race. And then the company name splashes up in front of you, and it's like accelerate your experience or something. I don't even know what the tagline is, but just throw a guess out there.
I don't know, Parkour International? I mean, that just seems a little crazy. I can't even think of what that would be.
So
an REI type mountain experience? I mean,
I would guess maybe what they sell is perhaps at REI, but what I left out of my description was they flashed shoes up on screen, like a digital, like 3D kind of like Minority Report style, like the shoe is just like hovering. So you would think shoes, right? But then I think back to the part where there's the guy running who doesn't have any legs.
Yeah, that part is a little different.
And so, yeah, I'm a little bit, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that.
I don't know. What have you been,
man,
what have you been watching to get that on your algorithm?
Man, dude? I got a VPN for that sort of thing. That stuff ain't touching me. So it's not from that. But it's like that and cancer kids. Huh. Like, I get maybe shoes and look at these sad cancer kids. Not to knock on cancer kids, okay? Like, St. Jude's is a legitimate organization. Like, shout out. But yeah, it has been almost exclusively in my lineup. It is either that ad or St. Jude's.
Oh my God, man.
So like, I don't know, but like, I think the algorithm is having trouble really sinking its teeth into me lately, because I don't have a need for either of those things.
Yeah, you don't need any new kicks or some parkour lessons?
I do donate to cancer kids, though. Let's get that straight.
Yes, that is always important. St. Jude's, Stanford, all those good places.
Yeah, so I realized about 5 minutes into this, we haven't brought up what today's topic is. So maybe you want to roll into that for the lovely people.
Yes. So today's topic is workplace attire.
We're talking about that corporate drip.
Yes.
So as you may have surmised by our appearance here, we are kind of rotating through both sides of the spectrum. But we'll get into that in a bit. So what have you been up to, bud? What's been happening? I don't know about you. I've been making a podcast.
You know, I was finding some microphones to be making a podcast, apparently, and they're right over here. Shout out. Thank you. And other than that, just been keeping up with work, new, career changes over the past few weeks. And
well, that's right, man. You got a new gig. Where are you? Well, without going into specifics, where are you at now?
Still in downtown San Jose. So still working out of that general vicinity, still
No, man,
working.
not where you live. I'm not talking about your pad. Nobody's
No, my
interested. Oh,
office, my office is still there.
yeah, your office is still at home.
Okay, I do have an office at home, but I do have an office I go into. Really beautiful, 15th floor. It's like, wow, and best snacks ever. I gotta tell you. If there's one thing that gets people into the office, snacks and food and great coffee.
Well, I got to tell you one thing right now, and actually, this is a great segue. So, Troy works in sales. I work in essentially project management, and I have to say, I work for a very large tech company that shall remain nameless because they really don't like their employees being on YouTube or any other form of media. So we'll keep this between us. But on the snack front, boy, the micro kitchens they have been wanting lately, my dude. Like I go, like they still got the coffee is still chef's kiss, but every time I go in there, it's like a FEMA recovery zone. It's like there, I am lucky if there is like one or two granola bars left. Where it used to look like when I started going in, like it looked like I was walking into a 7-Eleven. Now it's looking like a Dollar General.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're in the furniture business, so we have all the cool setups and I mean drawers and drawers of snacks, a fridge that has anything you want, lunch brought in once a week and you can just order it and like people show up. It is pretty stellar how we have it set up. And then, clients see it and they're like, "Oh, can we do this?" Like, "Yeah, this is the life we're living." We walk our talk and yeah, lots of granola bars, M&Ms, Fig Newtons, all the unhealthy stuff. That's the good one.
Maybe our listeners sitting there like, man, I had a microwave burrito the other day and a freaking LaCroix, and that was it. No, but that's what we want you here for. We want you to get the good stuff. We want you to get you into the magical land of free food at work and beer fridges. We have the keys to this kingdom.
Yes, and it is a lovely, lovely kingdom for
Yeah.
those that are going back into the office space outside of their home office.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting point too. Really, when we started thinking about this podcast and what you originally had is kind of like a life help thing. Like this was all pre-COVID, so we're in a space where honestly we're kind of navigating ourselves as well and kind of figuring things out in the changing landscape of the professional world now, especially in a lot of fields, primarily in tech, obviously, where a lot of things are either hybrid or like permanently remote a lot of the time, and what that kind of means for like the future of work and things like this episode in some respects is almost kind of like becoming irrelevant because of most people that I work with now are permanently like either working from home or in the office maybe 1 or 2 days a week. So it's been interesting to kind of see that transition take place like within our lifetime, right? Like our parents probably couldn't have imagined anything like this. And that's not to say like, growing up, like, especially around here, like we're out here in California, obviously. And telecommuting has always in my life been like a thing growing up, like in the 90s. Like you would hear about that, like you'd work from home a day, like you have like your dial up internet, you got your fax going, you got your Motorola StarTech, you'd live in the life, but it was always missing the interaction and live component that now has been filled. That piece of the puzzle has been filled by like Zoom or Slack or Teams or whatever you're on. And so it was really just this kind of like catalyst moment, right? Where we're now seeing like everybody's like, why would I go back? Which is a real roundabout way of saying like, if they want me back in office, y'all better get your snack game back on point because it's looking real sad out there. And it's a real long commute.
Yeah. I mean, I am a big fan of the hybrid workplace, and I feel that it's a much better scenario. Like you said, when our parents were growing up and going to work, like even one day at home, that was just something like a great perk. And now, like you said, all these different tools and video and all these different things, we're able to be more productive, I feel, and it's better for the climate, it's better for traffic, and for all those other things by having that workplace where, okay, you're going in maybe once, twice a week for important meetings, but the rest, like you said, you've got your Slacks, you've got all these other components that help with your productivity. And then when you take a look at like attire, right? You can work from a camera, from Zoom, and there's people like me that are customer facing, so I still actually dress like this. I'm not
That's,
just a robot.
I mean, that's a good point though, and maybe we'll save that for the main topic. And maybe we'll save this for another episode because we kind of went down a side road there that I think we're like gotta pull the e-brake and veer back on course. So, buddy, I saw you were out there with Mark working on the vines.
Yeah, so that I was. We pulled about 20 pounds of hops. Shout out to DTSJ Brewing. They're the ones who picked it up and made a great beverage out of it. So,
Yeah. And for reference, what he's talking about, so my boy Troy here was growing some hop vines in his backyard, and our friend Mark from New World Ales came over and basically pulled the whole harvest, and now our local brewer DTS is going to be making a special release session. Was it?
it was just released last week. It's kind of like a Helles lager, and you've got a really good finish on it from the hops, so it's really cool. It's one of the wet hops, so it only happens once a year, usually September, when the hop vines are all ready to go. So we've been doing it every year this is, I think, our 5th year doing this. So we'll just keep it going, and next year we'll have another batch out.
Yeah. It's good to see that they're staying alive and healthy back there. I knew the first year or so were kind of struggling to get through there. And if y'all hear some knocking, don't worry about that. Our neighbors are just engaging in some very rapid picture hanging, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing else to look into that.
So, yeah, I think that one of the fun things about neighbors that like knock, 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 is like you just gotta wait till you can tell when they're recording. You just go knock, 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 knock right back. But that's just being petty.
Well, yeah, but I also don't know when they're recording their podcast, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
Well,
Some advanced level espionage over there.
exactly.
But yeah, no, so sounds like it's been fun times over there. I know that can't have been too wild with the heat we've been feeling out here. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah, it was almost 100 degrees that day. It was not pleasant at all. Even with 3 people, it was quite brutal. And I was picking dressed in this attire because I just got back from the office. So it is also.
Man, how did you not change?
Dude, I was
I
already.
saw the
like,
pics too.
soaked.
There's evidence of this.
Yeah, it was. I was like soaked in sweat already. I was like, you know what? This shirt's ruined for the day. I'm just gonna roll with it.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go with it and just take the dry cleaning bill.
Yep, that's exactly how that went. It's like, you know what? This will smell like hops, and that's fine. It's just beer seasoning. That's how I look at it.
For sure. Man, I feel like there hasn't been any good movies out lately.
So I took a look
I'm going to be
weeks ago, and
Hocus Pocus too. Looking forward to that.
finally, 3 decades later, practically.
Yeah, for real. Bette Midler still looks exactly the same.
Oh yeah, she's eternal, man.
Oh, yeah. Just like Glenn Close or Betty White.
Oh, Betty White, she was my fave. I
Oh,
loved
yeah.
Golden Girls. That was my show when I was younger. Like that was like the bomb.
Like that and Mama's Family. That was my jam.
Yeah.
KPIX 6. Ooh. Or is that KTVU? Don't worry, listeners. We're talking about super hyper local references to public access television stations.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a man. Speaking of old TV, did you see they got Quantum Leap coming back without Scott Bow? And any
how is that even a thing?
well, they got a new. I feel terrible because they got this new actor, and there's a very cut and attractive young Asian gentleman. Who I swear I have seen in something else, but his name does not come to mind. But he is now the new Scott Bow.
Oh, okay.
Bow.
Bayo.
I'm
I
gonna go
believe
with
it's
bow.
Bayo.
I feel bow.
Oh,
Scott Bow sounds a lot more exotic.
I'll take it.
Yeah. The question is, will Scott bow?
He might.
All right. So feeling like that is getting a little thick in there, buddy. So let's move on into today's topic. And actually, I wanted to kind of pull that string a little bit more about what we were talking about with kind of this transitional period, with a lot of firms and companies going hybrid or work from home, and like what you've been seeing. Because I work a lot with internal product development, so that's a lot of software and hardware engineers. So this is actually pretty close to what I've seen some people wearing on stream. But you did mention that you're kind of still dressed to the nines when you're signing on. And are you seeing like in your neck of the woods? Obviously, sales is a very front-facing position. So are you seeing though anyone like with your peers like any kind of like shift away from that, or is it still very much kind of a formal like 9 to 5 kind of expectation in that regards?
I see it across several different boards, and there's a lot of different levels of casual with the clientele. So there's been folks that dress similar to me, not very often. I'm usually the only one dressed like this. It's just kind of my habit. Um, the jeans and nice shirt is a thing. I've even seen folks wearing like metal band shirts, like high level executives in some jeans and just going about their day doing their job. So what I've seen is it's a little bit across all the boards. So usually I'm not seeing people dressed up to this level unless we're doing things in person. But usually even on Zoom, you'll see me without the tie. I see a little bit more of like the collared shirt, just very casual. Um, Probably got the Hawaiian flair going where you can't see it off camera, but it's it's something that more and more I'm just noticing more people are kind of dressed more like what you're doing. It's just a nice casual, simple. Hey, they get up, they start their day, they're telecommuting, 5 feet away to their laptop. So why not be comfortable? And it's also a lot more accepted too. I mean, pre-pandemic, it would just practically be a crime to not look like you're dressed to impress. And now everyone's really, I feel that they've embraced the fact that it's about the productivity, it's about the quality of the work, and not necessarily as much about what you look like. And, that's not just attire, it's even like tattoos too. I think it's a
Yeah,
lot
I
more
think
accepting.
well, specific to things like tattoos, I think the generation where that was more of a taboo is definitely aging out. But more specifically too, like we look at things in very much a bubble over here. The West Coast has always been much more casual, or as my dad puts it, Xerox Park called a casual Friday one week and just forgot to take it off the calendar. So it's been basically about the same since '72. But it is interesting to see that in a lot of industries where traditionally you'll see a lot more formal attire. But as we kind of also return to the office and we're in these shared event spaces and going back to like not necessarily like network events, but like socials or presentations, conferences, that sort of thing. I do still see a little bit of that where you have kind of like the status quo, like you said, like it's either some variation of like chinos and a button up, or like button up and jeans, which is actually generally kind of my go to. Like if I'm trying to dress up or dress down, but it's definitely a developing space, and I think boop, 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 boop. Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of see that develop in that space in terms of how we're seeing things evolve and change as it relates to the shift towards hybrid work and work from home, and just kind of the general like trends that we're seeing in terms of like how people are choosing to present themselves and dress and appear at work. Uh, but that aside, let's talk about how this actually applies to literally anyone looking to enter either a professional corporate environment. coming from square one. And I think the best place to start here, honestly, is in the interview process, right? So all of this workplace attire in is a form of like visual communication, and specifically when it comes to corporate culture, how you present yourself and what you're expected to wear or what you think you should wear, all of that is basically codified. So it's a form of visual data, and it communicates a lot depending on who you're interacting with. And in certain examples, like how I'm dressed is completely acceptable, and I actually honestly expect it in a lot of different circles, and can actually more ingratiate you with certain teams or partners that you may be working with. However, if I were to come into work one day dressed like Troy, that might signal something else. Like this guy's kissing ass, like he thinks he's on the fast track to, like leadership or something like that. But we'll dig into that a little bit more. Uh, I wanted to start off with, let's just talk about how you how you identify like where that line is. And to me, I feel that's basically like when you are interviewing at a place, like look at like their corporate page, like look at events that they've, if you could see, if they have like any like social events that they've like posted about. Most big companies have like a Facebook page or something. And so that's one place to start. And there you can kind of get a feel for it. Some events people can dress up for, but if it's like a community day thing or like it's somewhere where they're holding like a conference or something, like obviously people are going to dress down or dress up depending. Um, so you got to kind of read between the lines. And then going from there, starting with when you're interviewing at a place, especially now, like a lot of this is obviously like there's less and less in-person interviews. So like look at not necessarily the recruiter if you're dealing with one of those, but look at how like the team rep or the HR person is dressed and what the environment around them might look like if they're actually coming to you from the office, and kind of get a sense from it there. And then I think like day one coming into the office, like you're thinking about like, oh, like, should I dress up? Should I dress down? I think just, aim for the in between. It's like winter, right? Dress in layers. Like I said, like jeans and a button up. And then maybe like, not necessarily a graphic tee, but, like something contrasty. Uh, and then if you are going into like a professional environment like finance, like that's almost a guarantee. Like at minimum, you're going to be wearing a button up and slacks, right?
Yes.
So it all comes down to just read the room. Like no one will really begrudge you like day one for the most part if you are outside of the lines. So like feel free to kind of use that to like gauge like your comfort level and where you want to be with like your own personal workplace style and what is kind of the expectation. Obviously, like this is second nature to like most people in the industry, but if you're coming from somewhere like say like you're like a shift lead at like Target or something, and you've been wearing a uniform for the last like 3 or 4 years, and you're transitioning into this space, like your head's not necessarily going to be there. And that's kind of the point we're trying to get across here, is that just basically read the room. If that were my catchphrase, that is basically just like read the room. Like aim for the middle, like dress like business casual, depending on the situation. Like if you're going in for anything where it's like you're going into like IT or professional services, obviously that can run the gamut. The more popular option there is like, like polo jeans, unbranded, doesn't have to be fancy. And then you can kind of work your way around it from there based on your surroundings. But yeah.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with doing research. Some, like you mentioned, not everyone has a recruiter involved where you can just directly ask. Maybe someone has someone they know that got them in there, they can, or is in that type of industry where you can kind of learn, like you say, dressing in the middle. And one thing I want to stress, is you don't have to break the bank, especially like what you just said. If you're transitioning, I mean, I spent 10 years in retail. Now, granted, in retail, I was wearing a lot of this, so I got lucky. But when I was first in it, I mean, it was like, okay, every couple paychecks, get a different type of shirt, kind of upgrade the wardrobe. But then you're just like, you just find how you fit in. It's like you mentioned, like with what you're doing. If you're going in and you're going into an IT role and you physically have to be moving around servers and the rooms are kind of hot, like you said, a polo, nothing fancy. You don't need to overdo it. And it's very casual and it's very easy for pretty much anybody. I mean, if in doubt, a non-logo polo at any level is a perfect starter if you really don't know. Because, you can be customer facing, you could be IT, you could be a little bit of everything and just, it's a lot
A
less
polo
stressful.
is a blank slate. It
Hmm.
doesn't say anything other than I made just enough effort this morning to not put on a Thrasher t-shirt and chinos and call it good.
Hmm.
Um, but it basically it shows like you are professional but still casual enough to be versatile is what I would say. And on that note, about like affordability and like building up your wardrobe, strap in because I'm about to say something super relatable right now. I am personally a huge fan of casual cashmere, and
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
don't think I'm too
You
fancy.
fancy.
No, it's not because Uniqlo and hashtag not spawn. Like seriously, like not spawn. But I unapologetically like love that brand. And if you like, just this is just one example. Like I'm sure you can go to Gap or Old Navy or something and probably find something similar. But like they have like legitimately good like cashmere like V-neck sweaters. And these things like they're super comfortable, they're nice and light, and it's a versatile like style choice, right? Where it literally is not formal, but it gives the appearance of like it's got like that venture capital chic, right? Like your stealth wealth kind of. But it also works in a professional setting too. So like if you didn't want to wear a polo or you didn't want to wear a button up, again, it's like winter. It's like layers, right? So like with that, I can just wear that and a nice basic white pocketed like t-shirt underneath, jeans, boom, good. It works. And if you wait till like their after winter stock, you can get, like 20 or 30% off on that. So like really nice quality stuff. It's only like, like 30, $40 sometimes. So yeah, it pays to shop around too, like if you're building out your wardrobe. So places like Uniqlo or like Old Navy, like those are kind of like your go-to, like when you're building like your base set. And like obviously, like I love me some graphic tees, and that stuff, you can pick up anywhere. I mean, there's a number of like graphic design, or like I don't want to say it anymore because they don't pay us.
Exactly. I pick up graphic tees kind of just when I'm
Yeah,
out and about, like, oh, we're gonna go to the beach today. Oh, here's a store. Maybe there's you know,
yeah.
a
But
tee.
I'm
Like
saying
real
like
simple.
that also works because that's a type of, again, it all comes down to that visual communication that I mentioned earlier. It's what you're saying without saying anything, and how you dress and who you interact with is a huge part of that. So the main takeaway here is you should be dressing to your own comfort level based on your day-to-day interactions. Most of the time, I'm working with my team. I'm not dealing with the C-suite, and so I am very like I'm not dressed down to this point. Like I generally will do like jeans and like a contrasty tee or whatever. And then sometimes I am called on to present or deal with leadership, and that is why I actually before I would have like either I had like those layers where I would have like a casual like over shirt button up, or I would keep a like formal shirt like on me or like a polo or something like just at the office that I could just pull out and throw on, just to dress up just a little bit so like I wasn't like rocking the uh, the graphic tees and jeans. And I will say the key takeaway here is this graphic tee, the neckline, the white space here. So when I was talking about like the casual cashmere, I can throw that on over this and then all you see through the deep V there is just the white neckline, which is just a perfect, just simple contrast, and it doesn't reveal any of this. And so that's an example of just like dressing up very easily. So it comes down to essentially like layers and accessories, right?
Oh yeah, definitely the layers and accessories. 7 layers. I mean, I've been staring at that thing. So you've got some subliminals going on as well. I'm just like, ooh, 7 layers of those burritos. Those are such good ones. Uh, and it's
Oh man,
really,
it's all about the quesarito. Come on.
oh God, I love that one. Just had I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I've been staring at this thing this whole time.
We already pulled out of the station. We're well into tangent town.
Oh yeah. So I mean, like, the other day I picked up it was like a bunch of chalupas and gorditas. I kind of went a little overboard, but good advertising. Because I still remember when like you walked in and it was always that same color scheme, the gray with kind of like the blue and like
Yeah.
was it purpley pink, kind of?
I mean, kind of like this.
Yeah, literally kind of like that. Um, and
I feel like they're getting way too much screen time right now. I feel like maybe I gotta.
and so that's the other beauty of it too. Like with your casual cashmere, you can just like be walking around the house, especially with when you're working at home. You throw something on, throw it right back off, especially if it's like a
Yeah.
nice heat wave. Because we've had a couple of those.
Man, if you are leading up into a heat wave, I would not suggest the casual cashmere. It's actually kind of a seasonal thing too, when I can actually wear that. Like again, in California, it doesn't get that cold all that often. There's a good like 2 or 3 weeks though where it gets nice and chilly, and those are like peak work pace fashion. And let's talk about that too. Uh, Workplace drip, right? Like in my office, like I don't necessarily like I pay a little bit more attention when I'm going to the office. Like a lot of the time too. Like I got the hipster Hitler going on here, you know. I got the swirl. When I'm working at home though, like I don't always do my hair up. And yeah, like I'll wear just like a graphic tee, but lately I don't know what it is. Coming back to this whole like return to office and this post-COVID thing. Man, some like everybody around me at the office, it feels like they are coming to freaking win when it comes to style. It's like I don't know why everybody decided that like it now was the time to start peacocking, but everybody like they upped their drip game. Like they figured out how to make sourdough and they just went to like Nordstrom's rack and just started dominating it.
Dude, that is so true.
So like yeah, like now like I got like I'm not putting I need to stress. I'm not putting in that much extra effort, but I'm definitely more conscious of my appearance now because I feel like I think part of the onus of that is that well if I'm gonna be in the office then I need
Thank
to
you.
like make the
Thank
effort.
you. That's it. That's exactly what it is because like you've got a lot of people who are stuck at home, bored out of their brains with their children and their dogs. They have not seen other human beings, so yeah, they're gonna get their floss on. I mean,
Well, I think
why not?
too maybe it's a bit of like and this is definitely true like it's only been 2 years and people forget how to like move in a public space. And I think this is part of it where a lot of people are just kind of like maybe overshooting a little because we've forgotten how to like interact with each other on a large scale to some degree,
Oh my
at
god.
least in certain fields.
It's been really interesting because for my line of work, I do in person a lot because we're business development.
Yeah,
Like
you got to
we
go
have
out
to
there getting quotes, shaking babies, you know.
exactly, and just give them little. And I remember my first couple ones, people really did not know how to interact. Do you remember when they were like, "Do I do the hug? Do I do the handshake?"
Yeah,
And it was just like so weird. And like the dress styles, it was like really formal or like really out there, especially folks that are creative, super bright colors everywhere. You're just like, oh my God, it is like fireworks walking by.
yeah, man, that's what I kind of like. Obviously, I pseudo creative background, so like I kind of go for like the contrasty colors. Like I'm all about pastels right now. It's kind of like my jam. But yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Like I don't like I cannot figure out how to initiate like proper handshakes now because like I go in for like the handshake and then like my that subconscious part of my brain just starts going and it's like goes for the fist bump like halfway through, but like they've already like started initiating the handshake protocol And then you're just kind of like, yeah, bud.
It's
Yeah.
like rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, it's like it was like a fraternity freaking greeting or something like that. So yeah, it's again, it's weird times, right? And so I think this is a great time to kind of launch into this space in terms of like content generation
Yeah.
and like provide and like because again, like we're figuring this out too, and so like I have to ask myself as well, like again in that situation, it's like what am I committing to when I come into the office now? Because it's also a lot more you're more likely to interact like with leadership if you're in tech and you're in an office like your Googles, your Apples. Most of the people who are going to be on site are going to be kind of mid to high level like management because they are trying to push the directive of uh, getting people to come back on site, and that's a lead by example thing, obviously. And so there's a lot more chance that you will interact with those people or come into contact with them. And so it's this weird space where you have to be like I don't want to say like more like aware of that or more like mindful of it because that sounds a little more obtuse than it needs to be, but it's definitely something that's on my mind. Um, and so too, like when if you're just freshly coming into a space like this from another career or profession, you might find yourself kind of in this situation where you might unexpectedly be dressed down uh, for a situation like a presentation or like you're called on to like drop a deck or something for like some of like the mid-level management or something. And again, it comes down to like dress up, dress down, like just have that button up like that, just keep that button up on hand basically and you're good. Like I don't want to act like that's like a cure-all or anything or like the Mrs. Dash of like corporate fashion, but it works. Like I think we're kind of edging away from at least finance is different, right? Finance is always like the max like Six Sigma vibe. Like those guys are ride or die for suit and tie, and that's primarily like more of an East Coast thing. If you are, and again, this is a very situational kind of subject, I think, and I do want to touch on the regional difference there. I think more in the Midwest and the East Coast, you will see a lot more of that like suit and tie like uh standard essentially. And that cuts both ways too because when you get into like suit and tie like a lot of you can tell bankers apart from guys who are actually in finance because the bankers they have like that off the rack Men's Warehouse trill, but when I can tell somebody has money because the cut of the suit, right? So I think everyone, if you have to go that route, like yeah, like there's nothing wrong with the Men's Warehouse choice, right? But like you should get that as like the starter and then work into something that's more tailored. And a lot of the time too is that a lot of people forget this. Like you can go into almost most dry cleaners and have alterations done. Like
Yeah.
even if you just buy a boxy suit, you can have that thing like taken in.
Yeah, that's what I've done basically my entire career. And kind of touching back on the subject of your mid to high level managers, executives that are going to be on site. One thing I've noticed is that sometimes they're just happy to see people because those guys are literally in those offices crying about their wasted real estate investment because that's I mean, I'm just going to be a little cynical. The return to work is to me not necessarily about collaboration, all that, because we've proven for the past couple
Oh
of
yeah.
years we don't need it. It's about real estate portfolio dollars, and when
Yep.
they're not being used, you've just got these guys that are sitting in offices. It's like, what are we going to do with this? Because they're in these like 20, 30, 40 year leases. They're sitting on land,
Yeah.
and so that is the one good thing I have noticed. Like when I've gone to different sites, is there's a lot of different um, attire and graphic tees out here are not frowned upon. That's I don't know where listeners are, but out here they're not necessarily frowned upon. And right now, just someone physically being in the office is just like, yay. So I think there's a little bit of a pass as you're building up your wardrobe. And yeah, going into what you were mentioning about like the cut and finish of it, you can get really nice stuff by even just going to Target and having it taken in. You don't have to go overboard. You don't have to have all these like crazy color. Like I'm a color guy. Like it's kind of my style. I just like it because it looks good. That's just what I do.
Well,
But
you've got
it's
so you've got the nice contrast of like horizontal stripes against a plain background. So like it works. And like I think we could do like a whole separate episode, maybe when we get the Patreon, about just like analyzing American Psycho and just like the breakdown of like how proper fashion works
oh my
in
god, yeah.
in workplace attire, because like there's multiple levels, right? Like you can swim in the shallows. You can be like, yeah, you got to button up, you know, like loose casual, no tie, and then you can get to the real espregadore levels of like you are dressing to impress, basically. And I there's some weird there's some weirdness around that with this kind of like, I mean, this kind of like Mad Men era, like rose tinted glasses sort of thing going on with that, where I definitely think that like that style of fashion is very dated now. Um, but I think there's some really interesting ways that you can kind of mesh that into like a modern look that are really interesting. Uh, but turning back to our kind of previous conversation there about like all the, you know, the main point of the push to return to office is mostly about, you know, you got all this floor space that's now sitting empty. Uh, do you think that in traditionally very conservative environments, like in finance and like on the East Coast, if we are going to start seeing more flexibility from employers when it comes to requirements and expectations regarding attire and dress on site?
Yes, and
Like,
I can 100% say yes because in our our clientele portfolio, we kind of see what people are wearing. We see them in the office, and they're all across the country. So seeing that flexibility, not just in attire, because one, like you said, there's the real estate. We're trying to get people back in, but just the use of the space. Because when you're locked in, how are you going to get someone to come back? You want to have a more welcoming environment, such as a better, easier dress code, fewer days required in the office, but also changing up the floor plans, like cubicles and those like neighborhood areas. There's less of those and
man, I
more
have
like
not seen a
office.
cubicle since 2004, man. Who has cubicles
Oh,
now?
they are everywhere.
Who has Well, okay, maybe if you work for like an insurance company, I guess I could still see it. So they're out there. And honestly, like they're nope, not gonna get into it. But related to that, I saw a thing is like the study was like cubicles are actually better, like for productivity than the open floor plan. Because when you look at it now, it's like with the open floor plan, like yes, it increases like accessibility, but like the problem I have now is like everybody feels like they can just like wander on up to you and just strike up a conversation, and like every 5 minutes, it's like, bro,
Yeah,
I
you,
gotta
you
work.
get more done at home than you do at the office. Period. End of story. People can fight me on it. I've seen it. It is just
Yeah.
life.
Well, I think they're uh yeah, I can definitely echo that. I think there's like a balance there where there was this initial period where we're all just like dumb gerbils rolling over each other trying to figure out our new environments. Because yeah, working on your own, like when somebody like when you see these job uh postings that it's like a real like self-starter or like self-motivated, like that is a real skill that you need to have. Like there's so many distractions at home too. It's like, oh, I'll just make another pop tart, or yeah, you know, oh, this really cool YouTube video can like being able to filter all that out, being able to like shut out your kids, you know, your genetic material that's up and running around that's like screaming at you, being able to just shut that out and focus on the task at hand is a real skill. And I think initially, like, there probably was some struggle with a lot of people like adapting to that. But in the long term, like, we had enough time where now we've actually kind of like, you know, the goldfish in the dirty pond, like, we've adapted to that environment. And so things have kind of like equalized in
Yeah.
terms of like productivity numbers. But I want to spend too much time on that because we are getting on a little long here. So, closing thoughts. Future, past, present, and future, man. I think the future is looking pastel in the professional workplace in terms of like requirements. I think in a lot of positions, a lot of front end positions, especially when you say like secretaries or front desk people or uh, like people like yourself in sales, I don't think that kind of not necessarily like, full suit attire, but I think there's going to be a dilution of that, but for the most part, like very traditional corporate positions will maintain kind of that semi business formal look, but I think also in other areas, like I mentioned, like insurance or whatever, like I have a friend who works in life insurance premiums, and they are very much, either polos or button ups. But I was saying like most of them now are like just, jeans, t-shirts, chinos now. So we are starting to see cracks in the ice there. But as it relates to our dear listeners and your own personal journey, again, I would say if anything, read the room. Like just be mindful of your environment and take in your surroundings. And day one, like I said, just bring the button up, wear a plain t-shirt. You can do jeans or slacks, and just find something that works for you, so you can dress up or down as needed and kind of plot your course from there. I think there's always going to be a time and a place for like semi-formal like workplace attire, but those times are going to be more few and far between depending on which role you're in. And also just think about like you're going to be doing a job or a task or whatever environment you're in all day. Find what's comfortable for you. Find what works. Like I said, like I'm a big fan of casual cashmere. It's a little bit nicer than wearing like, the traditional Valley hoodie and jeans. But it's also not super formal, so it works. So
Yeah, and be comfortable. That's really like you hit the nail on the head. I mean, no matter what you do, you really it's hard out here to go wrong nowadays. It feels like everyone's got some
yeah,
type of
I think
easy
we
access,
do have to be mindful of that bubble that we kind of live in out here too, because like again, we're the West Coast is very its own island in terms of its kind of ritual and workplace culture. Again, it comes down to that casual Friday in 1972 that they just never took off the calendar that we're still kind of living through out here. Um, and so it's been an evolution of that. But I would say uh, to that point, it's to wrap things up. It's like you are ultimately in charge of this data stream, this type of communication that you are engaging with, like, and how you want people to perceive you. It's like I said, like if I walk into work tomorrow wearing a suit, like people are probably going to make some assumptions about me, both good and bad. Uh, or if I walk into work wearing pajama bottoms, Crocs, and a graphic T-shirt, um, that will also convey certain information to other people, not necessarily good in all respects. Like a lot of people won't bat an eye, but some of the people I work with will definitely take that in. But honestly, like if I walked in and something like this would be perfectly fine. And so, but I am comfortable enough in knowing my workplace environment that I can execute that, and I'm fine with like essentially like presenting myself in that way.
Yeah, and
And
you'll be the
so
reason to
again,
have Nachos Bel Grande at the office. The way that's going.
yeah, as I said, gotta get a counter down there every time they owe us $5 for every freaking shout out. Um, man, they gotta bring the gordita dog back. Was that?
I don't even remember what that was.
It was the Yo Quiero Taco.
Yes. Oh my
How
God, the
you not remember it?
Chihuahua.
Yeah, the Chihuahua.
Yeah. Oh my God. It
I
was
mean,
fun.
I think there was some racial sensitivity issues over that, but
Probably.
you know what?
We
It
forgot
was a
about that
good ad
dog.
campaign. I think we can all agree as a society that we can overlook it. Anyway, with that, this has been episode 1 of the Work More Better podcast. It's been a long and strange journey to get to this point in the episode, but hopefully there's some good bits for you to take away and integrate into your own development. We have enjoyed sharing this time with you. If you want to see more of this and you like what we're doing, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want this in a less visual, more portable format, we are going to be available wherever podcasts are found once I get that libs in. So until next time, I'm Scott.
I'm Troy.
And catchphrase.